All right, we are live. This is episode 64 of the Deconstruction podcast brought to you by Jobtable, the simplest way to grow and manage your construction business. As always, let's kick it off with one of our latest reviews here. This is coming from Jerry. This is a electrical contractor out of Arizona. So Jobtable's customer service blew me away. I had an issue with how line items in a job complete the job, even though we had more line items coming in. Not only did they provide the standard video about how this works, but they also sent a personalized video on how my specific issue can be resolved. I've never received this level of customer service in my personal or professional life. Thank you again, Jobtable. So far, yours is the best construction service that actually understands its clients and is willing to go above and beyond client needs. Love that review. Thank you,
Thank you.
Jerry, for that.
Thank you, Jerry.
All righty. So we have a special guest today, familiar face back in the room. This is someone we've talked to before. He's been on the pod. Always a great conversation. Steve Baklarian is the owner of SMP Developments, a commercial construction company out of Toronto that's been in the game for over a decade. These guys do everything from structural concrete work to full commercial renovations, and they work with some of the biggest brands and names you can think of. So today, Steve's coming on. We're going to go deep on the concrete industry, what's happening right now, how things are shifting. We're going to get into fuel prices and what that actually means for your business on the ground, along with some other topics. So, Steve, welcome back.
Hey guys, thank you for having me back on. Looking forward to this one.
I see you're laid back, got the cigar in your hand. I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
Shout out to Nick Perdomo for this one.
What are you smoking there? What do you got there?
What's that?
What are you smoking?
This is a 30th anniversary Perdomo. It's one of my
Nice.
favorite brands.
Me too. Me too. If I can ever try one.
They know how to do it. They know how to do it.
Welcome back, Steve. Welcome back.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
All right, so let's get into it. I know you've been back, you've been on before, so some of the audience knows you. But start it off, Steve. Walk us through where SMP is right now, what the business looks like today compared to when we last spoke. I know a lot has changed in the economy and other things, so give us the quick high level.
Yeah, definitely. We're evolving and adapting day by day, month by month. There's a lot of changes in the residential market, as well as the commercial market. There is work out there for the people that are willing to go and get it. Let's put it that way. It's about having the relationships and having the name and the quality of work that stands behind you. It's not necessarily the price. Yeah, there probably is a cheaper guy out there that operates out of the back of a minivan, but at the end of the day, the clients are always looking for the best work that meets the target on time and has a reasonable price. So we've had to adapt to different things that come our way. As we call them, the tire kickers that are entering the market, and basically just lowering prices just to get work, just to get their foot in the door. And we've had that come across several different projects, but at the end of the day, the client always knows what's right, and they choose Steve and the group of S&P because they know what they're going to get at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a special podcast for me because I was downtown at the Jays game last night, and I was looking at this massive piece of concrete, and I was just like, wow, this is a piece of artwork, and just the construction behind it the construction behind it, the architecture, the engineering. I said, you know what? Let me Google when the CN Tower was built, and it's actually the 50th year anniversary this month. So construction completed on the CN Tower 50 years ago. 50 years ago, April, I believe it was April 1975 or something like that. So yeah, it was interesting because I was like, you know what? I said this is an inspiration. We can do these square boxes and these warehouses, but how about the engineering and the work, the time, the engineering that went in to build this massive, massive, massive structure that reigned as the largest or the tallest freestanding structure for almost 30 years. So I just wanted to bring that up on the podcast and just give a shout out to CN Tower and give a shout out to Toronto.
Yeah, no, I just pulled that up right here. So yeah,
Yeah,
April 2nd, 1975.
yeah,
What,
yeah,
51 years? That's
yeah, yeah.
I don't know why. I would have guessed late, like it was older for some
Yes,
reason.
yes, yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, we actually just had on the podcast last week Jeff, who owns, like, him and his family. They own basically some of them, almost all of the crane companies here in Ontario, and he actually said that one of his companies, which
Yeah,
was run by his grandfather,
yeah.
were the ones who did the craning for the CN Tower, right? So
Wow.
it's funny that was last week. That wasn't brought up, and today you're bringing
Yeah.
that up. So that's amazing. It's a good shout out. But I wanted to ask you a question based on what you were saying about adapting, because I know, Steve, even me and you, we work a lot on projects together, and we try to put our heads and always navigate this
Yep.
shit. But getting back to that question about price. There is work out there. It's a lot harder to get, which means you have to have a lot more boots on the ground, a lot of more knocking on doors, and my favorite thing, the way I love to run my businesses, the way I think business should be run, is based off of relationships. This is where they really come into play in times like this. But I wanted to ask you, because I'm seeing it, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, obviously in our personal conversations, but I do notice that whatever it was that we were pricing, let's say, a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, like even for us, even though we have the relationship, it is a very aggressive market.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So like to our listeners, what's your recommendation to them? Anybody who's struggling with this, or anybody who's was in the middle of scaling their business, what advice do you have for them now that even though you have that relationship, like the prices have tightened up, and it's not, let's just say the amount of profits are just not how they were.
Yeah, I think what you have to um I guess what you have to know is how you educate your client. I believe educating your client is very, very important, because the ramifications of going with somebody else that might not have the same repertoire as what you have can be detrimental in the long run. So you might be able to save a couple of points at the beginning, but ultimately at the end, there could be detrimental ramifications to that decision, right? And I believe that educating your client is the best way to sell yourself, and the best way to sell your business, right? Making sure that your client understands what you're bringing to the table, and why something is different, or why something is higher or lower, or whatever that might be. So that could be a variety of things, from your relationships with your suppliers to supply you in emergency situations, or when there is shortages, to know that your suppliers are behind you, and that ultimately means that the suppliers are also behind your client. I think that is a huge that is of huge importance. Educating your client to let your client know that your suppliers, your employees, your team is behind your organization. I think the client really has to understand that there's a team working behind the scenes to make sure that these projects are completed on time, efficiently, and on budget, right?
And
So
I think
that's
that's just more so important now more than ever before, right? In these times that we're in, as I like to say, uh, light is the best disinfectant.
yeah,
And
yeah,
light in this case, I think represents like a bad economy or a downturn. And in times like this, I think you nailed it right on the head.
yeah,
People are not always looking at price, but more so valuing like the trust and the
yes,
value and the
yes,
information and just the overall quality.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, I notice it definitely. Definitely, I agree with all those points. I just noticed as of late, I would say in the last, 6 to 9 months, I would say that even though the end goal is to use you because of the relationship and they know what they get, and I do agree with educating your client. That's of the utmost importance, because how many times do they say they have a price at this and you're at this price, and you know exactly what I'm talking about because we just went through this on a project together.
yeah,
And it's like, well, listen, I have no problems
yeah,
in breaking down my bid sheet, right? And
yeah,
showing you what the actual costs are, what
yeah,
the actual markups are. So, if I'm working on a 10% markup
yeah,
and you're telling me that somebody's 25% cheaper, I'm
yeah,
willing to basically show you that it's impossible,
yeah,
right? And I notice a lot of times doing that, you also start gaining even more of your client's trust, right? Just because yeah, like right now, I don't know if you agree, Steve. It's the Wild West out there,
yeah,
right? It truly is, and I notice that in downturns in the economies, you start getting a lot of these people that I call them, like, they're desperate for work.
yeah,
And what does desperate mean? Desperate means that they're taking jobs at a loss
yeah,
just to turn money. But how many times can you do that and the company survive?
yeah, yeah. Definitely, definitely, definitely. There comes to a point where it doesn't become economical anymore, and they get weeded out of the market. I think that's what it comes down to, and then they jeopardize quality, they jeopardize safety, they jeopardize a whole bunch of things that ultimately hurt hurt the project and hurt the customer, right? But those guys, I think, get out of the market. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
in the last 12 months, let's just say high level, where is your business? Are you seeing up and up? Is it leveling off? Is it a bit
I
slower?
think we are at the bottom of the pendulum right now. I think the December January was probably our slowest. I think that has to do more with the weather. A lot of people were very hesitant to start projects or put projects on hold because of the weather. Toronto, the GTA, and Ontario got hit pretty hard this year. There was quite a bit of accumulation, and I think if you Google it, I think Pearson Airport recorded like a record number of centimeters of snowfall. So I think it had to do with the weather, the economic uncertainty, locally and globally, and then I believe now that people have seen a little bit of sunshine, I think the phones are starting to ring. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
That's a good point. Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
hear that often, but that's true. Like we've had an abnormally cold
Yes.
winter, a lot of accumulation for sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I think a lot of that too has to do with like just human like human biology, right? If the weather's always shit, if it's really cold,
Yeah.
people don't have a jump in their step, right? It's
Yeah.
not like, all right, let's go out and do something, right? And that's actually a really good point because, yeah, again, working side by side with you on a lot of different projects, um, the month of March when we started to see some turn in weather, getting hotter and actually finally starting to see some sunlight. It's like everybody just came out of the woodworks out of nowhere.
Exactly.
It's like you were talking to me about this in November, December.
Yeah.
I was wondering what happened to this, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's back on the table. But not only back on the table, it's back on the table with a vengeance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
think people are ready to go. I think there's some more. There's clarity, or somewhat of a clarity in our global market now. Stock markets are back at all-time highs, and I think that it's going to be a prosperous spring and even greater summer.
I hope so. I hope so. I was looking at it and I saw concrete costs are up upwards of 7% compared to last year. Uh, how is that playing out in your bids and your contracts? Are
Yeah.
clients pushing back, or what are you seeing?
We have great relationships with our suppliers. Definitely, there is going to be increases, and that's just a natural occurrence because everything else is going up. And I think the largest contributor to that is fuel prices. We saw fuel prices last week reach levels that we haven't seen in a long time. Uh, in some areas, they've never seen fuel prices that high. But I think now that there's a 2 week ceasefire. I was looking at oil today. I believe it came down like 18%, Brent crude. So I believe there was a large decrease in today because there is some certainty in the Strait of Hormuz is flowing again, as they would say. But I think it could have gotten a lot worse because a lot of oil that is shipped from that region doesn't reach North American refineries for, I believe it's like 40 or 60 days. So there is still oil being supplied to North American refineries from ships that were en route prior to the uprising in that area. So there was already oil on the seas, as they say, and that oil is what we're currently working with, and then the new shipments that will be going through the strait should reach probably, I'm going to say mid May, maybe June. But yeah, if you look, what is that? It's down.
Yeah, just plunged yesterday, right
Yeah,
after that announcement.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you see there. So we did have a bulletin of a minimal increase per meter of concrete or per yard in the U.S. Um, so there was a minimal increase just to cover a percentage of the fuel increase, but it was very minimal, and we'll see if the suppliers do maintain that minimal increase, or they bring prices back to what they were prior to the large spike in oil prices.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, 7%, I'd have to say, like, being a plumber and dealing with a like metals and precious metals. Like it's, what we typically, even when we're budgeting large projects and we have to factor in, year after year, sometimes when you're building a condo, the condo takes 3 years. So, if you're giving a budget prior to them going for funding, you have to include for year over year, like kind of increases and inflation to the best of our knowledge. So on average, it is 4 to 6%, right? That like, at least in the plumbing industry, that we do see year after year. So 7% to get that increase, not bad, because I like from January to now, like steel prices, like on our black steel, you know what I mean? I think it's over 34%, right?
Yeah.
So a project that you bid in December or November and you got the purchase order and you're working, you're fucking shit out of luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't go back to the client. Like, a lot of people don't understand this, right? You can't go back to the client and say, hey, I had $20,000 or I had $50,000 worth of black steel on this project and it's gone up, 34%. They're going to make you eat it, right? So with that being said, do you see with this increase that happened, like, do they let you know ahead of time? Or is it just like, from one day to the next, they just slap you with it and they just say, yeah, it's this much extra a meter or a yard?
Yeah, they do let us know in advance, about a week, but you're definitely right. On our rebar side, some of our projects require us to purchase rebar, and we have seen increases on rebar side. The rebar side, the numbers have skyrocketed since last year this time, and I think that's opened up the doors for a lot of foreign imports as well. But again, we stick to Canadian mills and we stick to local sources. But I did notice a few weeks back that there was some interest in some foreign rebar, but it's I would say between concrete, lumber, and rebar, I would say that rebar has taken the largest increase.
But it's crazy too, because I was just going through this with actually a couple of my suppliers. I was actually giving them shit because as much as they're saying, buy locally, and obviously you're paying a premium, because if the cost even of foreign goods, right? But if the cost of steel goes up, and obviously it's going up because of tariffs and dumping and whatever you want to call it, everything that they're fucking slapping onto it, what ends up happening is local stuff starts to rise as well, because the demand just becomes out of hand. But in the flip side, and I don't know if you're seeing this on the rebar side, like I said, I was just giving my supplier shit because, we order a bundle of copper, for example, and it's supposed to be, local, and it's mixed. And it's mixed, right? So you call them and you say, hold on, you're charging me North American prices, and this is mixed. And what every supplier is saying is basically, well, it has to be mixed because it cannot keep up with the demand. So like at what point is it like, as much as we want to stick locally, it's almost like like we're handcuffed. We can't, there's nothing else we can do because we have to get the project done. We have to get it done on time, on budget. But at the same time, it's like you're ordering this, you're thinking you're paying local, but it's a mix, right? Like, do you see that on the rebar side as well?
Most of our stuff is so every single piece of rebar has a mill stamp on it, and I would say I haven't seen any mixed in it this year, but I did notice it last year, and it was almost like an off coloring. I would notice that the imported product would have a little bit of rust on it, and that was rebar that wasn't supplied by us. That was supplied by the the GC or the developer. So that's kind of how we noticed it. And my guys were complaining because their gloves were full of rust, and rust all over them, and it was a result of the rebar, I guess maybe during transport or however, but yeah, I've noticed that, but mostly last year, not so much this year yet. Yeah.
But a question for maybe both you guys, like,
Yep.
when these fuel spikes happen, like
Yep.
unexpectedly, so drastically mid
Yep.
project, right?
Yep.
Like what are your options there? Do you absorb it, pass it on? Like, or do you have like fuel escalation clauses built into your contracts, or what does that
Can't.
look like?
Yes.
Can't. I don't know. Steve, you speak on that. I'll speak on.
Um, so on our larger projects, we definitely have disclaimers attached that do say if there is a large fluctuation in costs of materials, that those costs are passed on to our client, and they would just be passed on with minimal markup. They would be passed on to our client, but we would work with our client and say and show them where the increase came from, and most of our clients would be reasonable and would understand that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, on my end, I would say like we put it on all of our bids, but a lot of times we're signing these contracts, and you're more bound to the contract than you are your own quote. Sometimes, right? When you're getting into these larger contracts. So unfortunately, it comes down to, I think, Steve, what you said there, where, you're just hoping that you have an understanding client, because, like I notice, for example, on, just again, from using some like really large companies in our line of work,
Yeah.
I noticed that they always have a line item, which is like fuel surcharge. So I was on a project that I had to use them on, that they had a pretty significant bill to me, which then I have to pass on to the client.
Yeah.
And the way they do that is, and it was very, I actually find it brilliant, just to cover yourself at all times. But what they do is they charge a percentage of the overall invoice.
Wow. Wow.
So in this case scenario, they were using it because I got in touch with the guy who was dealing with my account,
Yeah.
and I go, okay, I got 3 large invoices from you guys here, and your surcharge,
Yeah.
your fuel surcharge is, it's all over the map. Like, can you explain this to me? And that's what he said. It was a percentage,
Yeah.
and I asked him, I go, well, what's the percent? And he goes, 9.4%.
Yeah. Wow.
So if they got a $10,000 invoice,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're getting hit with $940 in fuel surcharge. You know what I mean? If you got a $10,000 invoice, you got a $100,000 invoice. That's the way they do it, and it's crazy to think today. Like even on our service side, we have a show up fee and a truck charge, right? Our truck charge no longer covers our fuel.
No, definitely. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But the
Yeah.
second that you increase that, everybody thinks you're trying to gouge them.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where I find a very tough time trying to massage the two, where it's like, I'm not trying to screw you over, but at the same time, like, man, like, go to the pump. What were you paying last month? What were you paying this month?
Yeah.
So I think that comes back to our initial thing that we said, Steve, educating your client,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I think the client has to understand that there is fluctuation. There has to be some mutual understanding, right? There has to be a mutual understanding that there is different variables that that come into play, and we have to be able to adapt and be able to talk and have an open conversation, and be able to share that yes, there is a truck charge. Yes, this minimal charge is there for whatever reason, right? The biggest thing, like I keep going back to, is educating the client and being able to have that open conversation, and being able to understand each other and have a good working relationship at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. With that too, all this volatility, right? Before it was, the uncertainty on the interest rates, and then, you throw in tariffs, the up and downs there. Now you're throwing in fuel.
Yeah.
How far out can you realistically quote like a fixed price on a job right now? Like before, maybe it was like 60 days, 30 days. Now I feel like, like a week.
Right now we're offering, or we're sticking to 30 days. We don't really see a massive jump in costs in that small of a period. And if their costs were to increase, I think the by the time that the costs actually end up costing us, we could work it into any future quoting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think our industry is so reliant on increases similar to that of the trucking industry, where fuel prices change by the hour, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 30 days. I would say 30 days. Yeah. You have to hold it. But, again, for all our listeners as well, one thing I know we've said on this podcast before, and I highly suggest it to everybody. We initially, like my company initially, we started implementing it during the COVID days, and then we kind of got rid of it. And then, lo and behold, here it comes back. And we have a disclaimer on all of our quotes basically saying that, any cost increases due to tariffs, global markets, driving up the price of the cost of goods, then it would be reflected. And we keep it on all of them. Like we just sent in a bid on Monday, and the estimator ended up calling my estimator and said, like, yeah, you got to remove this. And we literally told him, like, there's no way we're removing that. Like, you're asking me to sign my life away, and I won't do that. Because what happens if I remove that, and 28 days later, the price of copper triples. You know what I mean? And now I'm bound to that. I can't do it. So sometimes I think it's also important too, as much as creating that relationship, I think it's also important too to stay true to yourself, and not like I said, I know the prices have tightened, but also don't do anything that could be detrimental. God forbid that one hiccup does happen. You know what I mean? Put those disclaimers on your quotes. You know what I mean? Put it at the bottom, put them in bold, with an asterisk for everybody to see. And it's just like, hey man, again, I don't want to charge you extra. I just want to do the job and make my margin as per what I quoted you. But in the event that there's a catastrophe that happens, right, which I think in the last 6 years, I think we can all agree that it's not something that cannot happen. You know what I mean? We keep seeing a lot of uncertainty and volatility in the markets, where you just have to protect yourself, right, at all times, right? And just let the client know, again, getting back to educating, I'm putting that on there just in case you try to stick me with some, contractual bullshit. You know what I mean? I have to leave it on there. And that's what we told this estimator on Monday, right? It's like, accept the quote if you want. I'm not taking it out, right? I'm not doing it to be sneaky. It's just, you're living in the same world I am, so.
Yeah.
I think it's there to protect both the client and yourself, right? You don't want to be, well, you don't want to have your back up against the wall and be trapped and then take it out on your client, right? By so many different ways. If it's cutting corners or delaying the project or whatever the means is.
Yeah. I was gonna, Johnny, you kind of touched on it. I was gonna ask both you guys this, like just in general, but like how do most GCs or clients, property managers, whoever it is, generally respond to these like escalation clauses or cost plus clauses? Like are they generally, receptive to it? Do they push back? Or it just
In our
depends on the specific relationship?
Yeah, in our case, majority of them are okay with it. I think out of the several dozen contracts that we've done this year, I think maybe we've had less than a 2% pushback. So
Okay.
very, very, very minuscule pushback, and it was just a quick, hey, can you just elaborate on this? And then yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
basically it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
would
fair.
I would agree with that. But I also think again, it's there's so many, Steve, I know you are as well, and I always talk on it about our plumbing company. Like we're very diverse. So I would say on the larger contracts, very tough, very tough.
Yeah.
You know, why? I don't know. They just, are they getting the funding from the bank? They understand, but they just, a lot of times like, what do you want me to do about it? I notice on the more, I don't want to say smaller projects, but the more intimate projects, I think that's the right wording for it. The more intimate projects, I find where, not only are you working for the GC, but you also have some point of contact with the owner, which that's why I call it a more intimate project and everybody kind of knows everybody on site. I find like those ones they're a lot more understanding because nobody wants to see you, number one, fail. Nobody wants to see you lose money. Nobody wants to see you take a hit based on something you can't control that's going on in the world. Where I find as the bigger contracts, like those guys are like, this the reality. It's just fucking cutthroat, right? Hey, you have a contract of $5 million. I don't give a shit if it's going to cost you an extra 50 grand. You have $5 million in a contract, right? And it's like, even though your argument is so reasonable and so, like black and white,
Yeah.
so to speak, I find that a much tougher conversation personally.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I was curious to ask Steve
Yes.
on the commercial concrete side, what are some of the biggest like margin or profit leaks that you see in a project? The things that could silently,
Yeah.
leak and like
Yeah.
kill a job that looked profitable on paper. You know what I mean?
Um, a lot of it comes down to organization. Um, Being able to have your crews arrive on site, work, and continue working. Being able to get to the site and say, okay, we have 200 feet of wall to build today. Okay, let's do it. Right. We've been told that the site's ready to go. The excavation is done, the soil tests have been done, and then we show up and there's 2 feet of water in the hole, right? And it's like, okay, now we have to pump, we have to dewater, we have to prepare the site to even start working. And a lot of times that cost is incurred by us, and rarely do we pass it along to the client. It's just the nature of the beast, as they say. But once it does get excessive, then it's definitely billed. But I think the preparation and the understanding that we're here to show up, complete a task, and move on. I think preparation is where there is a lot of, I guess you could say, leakage or spillage or waste, that's incurred, and that ultimately hits the bottom line, right? Because you're paying for labor, you're paying for trucks, for crews, for delays that are unnecessary because of a lack of planning from the GC side, or the ownership side, or the excavation side, or whoever it is, right?
Would you say you notice a lot of that happening more and more now, where
Definitely.
where they're telling you the site's ready and you're coming there, and
Definitely.
yeah, and a lot of times I feel like, again, we're speaking in, from experience as
Yeah.
well, together on a site with your own
Yeah.
sites, but I don't know if you agree with this, but I find a lot of that is happening. And the only reason why you're taking on that burden of cost is because you need to finish that project to move on, right? So it's almost like they're setting it up in that way.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you know what
They
I
know
mean?
they know that Johnny or Steve is gonna look after it.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry. It's a $10,000 cost. It's okay. They're here. They're going to take care of it. Yeah, yeah.
It's a
No worries, guys. No worries.
it's a shit show, but don't worry about it.
That's funny.
Yeah. I was dealing with something very, very, very similar this morning, where we had a builder say, yeah, everything's good to go, and then guys get there, and the survey wasn't done, and the builder was told that the survey was done, but the surveyor ended up showing up at 11 o'clock. So I had a crew sitting around from 7 a.m. till 11 a.m. waiting for a survey, right? So that it happens all the time. It's almost expected in these days. It's almost expected.
But the most frustrating ever.
Yeah.
Yes.
But to kind of sum up the whole leakage side, I guess it's true with anything. It's like, efficiency in the
Yeah.
operation, soft plug, like a tool like Jobtable could theoretically really help with
Yeah.
improving the efficiency, which at the end of the day helps stop a lot of that leakage and
Yes.
inefficiency, and
Yeah.
paying more labor or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And I think the key to what you're saying there too, Costa, is and we always say this. It's like control what you can control. So whatever leakage you are having on your efficiency side, on your operation side, that's what you got to tighten up. These ones that we're talking about, like the leakage that you have no control over because that's somebody else's scope of work or somebody else's preparation, so that you can come in and do your work. That's just part of the business, unfortunately. And like I was saying to Steve, it's just a lot more common today than it was before, right? Because like I said, if this was before, on multiple projects, you just be slapping them left, right, and center. Delay claims show up. You know what I mean? Couldn't get our work done when you told us it was done, and it was an easy kind of fucking argument, right? Where today it's not, right? And I think it's because, again, I just think this all turns to the taps are not running, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's extremely tight on their budgets, on the amount that they have to build, and that's why it is extremely, extremely important. You can control whatever you can control. So your actual processes, your procedures, tightening up on all of that is extremely important in today's economy.
Yeah.
At all times, but especially in these times, like
Yeah.
that's like at the top of the list, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Steve, what about on the labor side? Are
Yeah.
finding good concrete guys hard right now? What do
Um,
you
I
see?
think I think the good guys are working. Our phone lines ring every day. Always there's a lot of people out there that are that are looking for work, and we try and keep our guys busy, and there's all of our guys are working. We're putting in the hours. We're working. But the good guys are working,
Yeah.
and I believe that's industry wide. Now I believe a lot of the industry, it's time to trim the fat, as they say, right?
Yeah, true. What about on the wages side? Are labor costs in concrete going up more than other trades, or is it kind of the same?
I would say they're about the same. Right now, people aren't really willing to jump ship for for a couple bucks more, because they're uncertain of the flow of work. I've had in the past where other companies try and some of my employees, and I say, guys, listen, if they're offering you whatever it is, this much more an hour, I said, you got to do what's best for your family and for your table, right? But always remember that you're guaranteed work, with us, right?
Yeah,
There's a lot of companies out there that will get maybe one or two jobs, and they'll offer the moon, right, just to finish those one or two jobs, and then they don't have any work after that.
yeah,
So
and then
that's
they're done.
that's happened. That's happened to us in the past, and I think after one, two, three, four times, it it uh, it leaves an impact, right? Uh, and the workforce knows that there is work. That's why a lot of my guys are loyal, and they're happy for the work that they have, and they're happy with their wages.
Yeah, and you have a sizable crew, right? And I feel like one of the topics that a lot of people
Yeah,
don't talk about too often is like,
yeah.
what's your approach to just building and maintaining a reliable crew? Is it paying more? Is it culture? The type of
Uh,
work that you do. Like, what
Culture.
moves the needle there?
Yeah, I believe culture, having the right equipment. Um, we work with Hilti quite a bit on the latest new and improved tools that are available to the market. I believe that looking after the crews and getting them the right tools to do the job that they need to do is very important. And
Yeah,
creating a morale within the unit is also very important. There's some guys that don't get along with other guys, so we try and separate those guys, or they'll be straight up and say, "Hey, I like to work with crew A, not crew B." So we take that into consideration, and make sure that everybody's happy at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Um, so let's look ahead here, right? So
Yeah.
just forward. So there's a lot of talk about like big wave of infrastructure spending in Canada this year and beyond. Is that real for commercial concrete contractors? Are you seeing anything?
Yeah, we've definitely seen it. We've definitely felt it, because that might mean that, not necessarily, like, for example, one example is the new Ontario line that's going in. There's industries and infrastructure that need to feed project, right? And those industries need support and need concrete. So it's not necessarily the concrete that's going in for the tunneling project. It's the industries and the companies that work on those projects that um, need slabs, need foundations, need temporary pads, need crane hoisting pads done. We've done some work where we just come in and strictly just help prep for craning of material, pouring large big slabs so that they could use them as landing pads for crane work, right? So that's just one example and on the Ontario line. That I believe it's a snowballing effect for the rest of the economy. If there's a guy working in the tunnel that's operating a machine, he's going and spending that salary at a restaurant. The restaurant is then buying fruits and vegetables, and the fruits and vegetables vendor needs a warehouse to store their fruits and vegetables. So it's a snowball effect that goes on and on and on. But
Yeah.
I do believe that the increase in government spending and institutional spending in the economy definitely has a detrimental effect on any sector, if that's plumbing or concrete or the fruits and vegetables business, right?
Yeah. So where do you see the opportunity right now for a commercial or like a concrete contractor, general contractor? Is there a specific type of work that you're looking to get more of, or do you see any opportunity somewhere?
Yeah, I think a lot of our focus is looking at very niche markets that are in manufacturing and in distribution. Manufacturing specialty products in Canada. There's a large niche market in that we've been privy to, and we've been very supportive of, and they've also been supportive of us. A lot of military and national defense manufacturing that you would never know is manufactured in Ontario. These facilities need bigger, better, stronger buildings, etc. Right, and then also involved in some projects with transportation and distribution, and that's a huge sector for us. There's a lot of I guess you would call it a lot of shipments that that don't even originate or end in Toronto, but are what's called cross docked in Toronto. Container coming from the port of Montreal is put on a train and brought to Toronto, and then the container is brought to a Toronto warehouse, and maybe 10 skids are taken off that container and shipped to Thunder Bay, and then another 10 are shipped to Chicago, for example. So there's a lot of that intertransportation happening, and I think Toronto is a growing hub for that. If you see the Bolton, Caledon, Highway 50 area, you'll see they've been growing and growing and growing with transportation, and a lot of well-known companies are starting to expand their operations because of the transportation routes that are available, whether that be rail, truck, or even air.
Another big one is like data centers,
Yeah.
infrastructure projects for, driven by the AI demand. Like this just, I don't know if you saw this one, I think from yesterday, Microsoft, they announced a $19 billion commitment in Ontario to build a data center. And this is one of a few projects as
Yeah,
well.
data centers is huge right now.
Are you
Huge.
guys seeing any action there?
Yeah. Yeah, seeing a lot of action on that, but I'll speak on the mechanical side. Like those projects are extremely massive. So a lot of times it all comes down to number one, size of the company, which again, I notice on these data centers, it's actually the same as kind of like a hotel, right? Like a casino slash hotel. They do it very similarly, where they'll either issue the contract to one massive company, or what they'll do is they'll segment it, right? And they'll break it up into blocks. And like this GC has block A. Block A has their amount of trades inside. Block B, same thing, and so on and so forth. So when they break it up, yes, 100%. But the reality is some of these data centers, which again, and that's why I'm always a big advocate for collaborating in our industry, which has been kind of like obsolete from the old school. Being very open, being friends with your competitors, being friends with the companies you're trying to be, essentially, or look up to, let's say. I don't want to say trying to be, because everybody wants their own identity, but like you look up to and kind of want to follow in kind of their footsteps. Those are few and far between, right? So like when it's that large of a project, like I would say, like mechanically, sometimes you're looking at a $400 to $500 million project, right? There's only a few companies that can float a project of that size, right? Or even get invited to the table. But definitely data centers is huge. I know companies like, like getting back to what Steve said, companies like Amazon and, certain distribution companies, they're also pumping in a lot of work. But the reality is that even though there's a lot of work on that infrastructure, it's definitely also killed some markets, right? And we talk about this a lot. Steve, I don't know if you agree with me. You start to see a saturation coming into when you're in these, let's say, these niche markets, or, again, when you're getting into like industrial, or you're getting into like urban planning, so to speak. So let's say, this huge data center. So now you're starting to see an influx of people trying to get into that market. You know what I mean? And sometimes I feel like the people that were in there from the beginning, they're good. They're locked in. People trying to break into that industry at a point like this, it's extremely tough. Extremely tough.
I just pulled this up, and so Canada's data center building boom, it's so red is proposed, centers, green is operational. So it looks like all the action is in Alberta here.
That's a
The
good one.
the the energy capital of Canada,
Yeah,
Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah.
right? The energy capital of Canada. But yeah, we do like don't kid yourself. You're also getting a lot of that, a lot of action in terms of data centers here in Ontario as well. But again, I think a lot of people aren't seeing that action because there's only a few players that can play in that game, right? The key thing to look out for anybody listening that is interested in getting into those is to find out if the project is being segmented, if it's being blocked. If that project is being blocked, your chances of getting in are good, right? If they're looking to just sign it to one company, unless you're, doing 500, 600, $1 billion a year, I don't see it happening, right? It's almost like saying like, hey, I own a concrete company with 30 guys, and all of a sudden they're building like a Golden Gate Bridge, and it's like, hey, I'm going to go bid on it. It's like, nah, it's not happening, man.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. So Steve, what does S&P look like in 3 years?
Good question. Good question. Good question. I think we would definitely expanding and growing to different segments, different niche markets. On the concrete side, I think we're more of on the residential side, more bigger luxury versus your cookie cutter homes, and then on the commercial side, very niche market oriented, being able to meet the demands of whatever niche market it is. I think growing more of the luxury market and growing more of the niche commercial market is where we see ourselves headed. I think the ultimate goal is to expand our operations within Canada. We haven't explored any alternate markets, but looking at the Canadian market, we still see some strength there.
Nice.
Let me turn that question a little bit, Steve.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself taking myself and Costa in 3 years? What vacation? What part of the world are we going, Steve?
Where in the world are we? Good question for
I
me.
didn't get invited to the cigar bar that you're at right now, so I'm just wondering, like, if in 3 years when you explode, like, are you taking me with you or what? What's going on?
We'll see you guys in West Palm Beach.
All right, I like it. I like it. I like it. There's a market we should hit up.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. No, this
Okay.
was good, Steve. I want to be mindful of your time. We always end it off here with a quick question. If you could, on a billboard, if you can put a message, a business lesson, an insight on a billboard for every contractor in the world to see, what would it say?
What would it say? Good question. Good question. From footing to finish. I think that's the tagline.
I like it.
Making sure that the footings are bang on and the finish is bang on.
Beautiful.
I like it. I like it.
Amazing. All right, guys. Steve, it's always a pleasure. I really appreciate the time. For all of the listeners right now, we appreciate you as well. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, wherever you're listening to this, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, we'd appreciate that. And if you are a contractor looking to streamline your operations, avoid a lot of the leakage that we talked about, do check out jobtable.com. It could seriously streamline your operations in a very positive way. So check out jobtable.com. There's a 14-day free trial, and check it out. So with that, Steve, once again, pleasure.
Thank you,
Enjoy
Steve.
that cigar. We'll definitely be in touch.
Yes, so good. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, Costa.
Thank you, man.
All
Okay.
right, guys.
Ciao, guys.
Bye.